For the past 4 years, I've filmed almost exclusively on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And from personal content to YouTube to full-scale feature productions, it's held up. And that's saying something, I think, about what the iPhone can do. And that's why I've created this iPhone Filmmaker series, so I can show you exactly how I fooled top industry professionals into thinking an iPhone was a much more expensive setup. So why then, you ask, did I bother to get a real camera setup? And that's actually a difficult question, but I think the answer Alrighty. It has been a while, again. I'm sorry. I was away on a trip and then I got sick for like 2 weeks. But anyway, I'm back now, ready to go, and a whole bunch of you guys are new to the channel, so thank you so much, welcome, I hope you enjoy the content. And with that, let's jump right into why I got a new camera. First off, filmmaking needs. I've pushed the iPhone past what it's capable of. I mean, after literally over 4 years of shooting almost exclusively on iPhone, I've used other cameras for other projects before, obviously, but using mostly the iPhone for everything, I've learned the ins and outs of it and gotten to the point where I can actually like do things that most people, like I could shoot in low light with an iPhone and still get like a fairly clean image with it, which I'm gonna make a video on at some point. But again, that's kind of pushing it past what it can actually do. Another camera is a lot more ideal for shooting in low light situations. I also needed something a little more versatile that could kind of cover more situations and also that looks more professional because, well, I can get good quality out of it. When you're shooting, your confidence kind of goes down when you're shooting with a phone because it's a phone and you don't feel like you're professional. When you have a big rig, there's something about the look of it that when other people are watching you shoot stuff, you actually do feel more confident when you have a bigger rig. So that's not really that important, and I still think you can use the phone. Again, I've used the phone on full-scale feature productions. It's not like you can't use the phone, but I do prefer to have something that looks a little bit more professional when I'm on something more professional like that. And I know that's a bit more of a comical one, but it is kind of a reality. I also want to clarify that I'm not gonna like stop using my phone. The phone still works great for a lot of things, but I really just needed an upgrade. I needed something new to learn with. I need to kind of be able to push myself. And again, I've learned the ins and outs of the iPhone, so I need a new camera to learn the ins and outs of and get really familiar with. Just something else to start working with and pushing myself and practicing with. If you're not finding new things to try constantly, you're never gonna actually get better. You can't just keep doing the same old thing. And when you switch it up and start using new things, trying new techniques, that's how you can actually get better at your craft. If you keep doing the same thing and just expect to get better, it's never gonna happen. I literally can't get much better at filmmaking if I keep using a phone. I can teach the information of using the phone, but I personally can't actually push myself and get where I want to go in the film industry if I keep using a phone. Also, to clarify again, I have used other cameras before. Other projects oftentimes have them. I rent them for other projects, but I have never personally bought one until now. I was just always using my phone for those kind of things because it worked and I understood it and it worked, but now I'm just kind of ready to push myself and to start being able to work on things. If anyone knows how to fix that, it's really annoying. Anyways, I'll be the first person to admit that the iPhone is not the greatest camera ever. However, I do think it's the best beginner camera. Partially because everyone already has one, and it's also a lot simpler to learn than other gear, and it's way cheaper of a setup. Another reason I wanted a new camera was actually for photography, and the phone, I've taken a lot of great photos on the phone, but I kind of need a bigger sensor to capture some more detail, and also something with better burst capabilities, because the phone can do burst, but it's kind of weird. I need to be able to like snap off 100,000 photos in 5 seconds. And when you're doing photography, the feeling of putting your eye up to the viewfinder and pressing the physical shutter as you snap a photo is one of the coolest feelings in the world. If you've never experienced that, you need to. Like, that's literally one of the coolest feelings in the world. I don't know. And you can't get it with a phone because you're like just looking at the screen. But when you actually hold the physical camera in your hand and put it up to your eye. Some of you guys are looking at me like right now going, he's crazy, but it's, I don't know, I can't describe it. Another thing that I got the camera for was more for just like other projects, because I'm getting hired for a lot of things, and when I have to rent out gear from other places to shoot that kind of stuff, it's like I'm actually missing out on a lot of money I could be making. If you have your own package, then you can rent out your gear package for those things and you'll make a lot more money that way. Now I will mention that shooting your videos for clients on a phone can actually work. Most of the time they're going to care more about what the final result is than the gear you use to get that final result. However, once your skill gets to a certain level, using the phone will actually make you feel less confident, and it could actually make your videos worse, because as I'm going to talk about in a minute, gear actually does matter, just not how you think it does. So the other reason is this, YouTube. The phone has worked out okay for what I'm doing. However, I like to use the phone for my notes, and I also like to hold it in camera as a prop when I haven't been able to do those things because the phone has been right there filming. I also can't see my shot, like I have to go back and forth. It just takes forever to set up a shot when I'm doing it with the phone because I can't see the shot. Right now I have a little screen right over here and I can make sure I'm in focus and everything, and that's actually how I'm seeing that my monitor keeps blipping out and going to the screensaver. So that has been helpful while I'm filming this right now. I'm not necessarily stoked about like vlogging with this setup because it's kind of big and bulky, so when I vlog I'll probably use my phone, but for these kind of talking heads I think this setup will work a lot better. Here, I'll show you. Boom! My massive light and the camera. Canon R6 Mark II, that's the camera I got. Stuff. Yep. I just think that works a lot better for this kind of thing. At least for me, I don't think the phone is necessarily bad. I think you can definitely shoot with the phone. All my other videos have been shot with the phone and I think they look fine. But it is nice to have the multiple cameras to choose from that you can kind of determine for different situations what you're wanting to use. All right, we're gonna bring it in here. Make it nice and personal. People always talk about how gear doesn't matter, it's just the skill. I don't think that's true. I think your gear does matter, but not necessarily in the way you think it does. I do think that the skills are superior, but I do think the gear actually does matter once you hit a certain skill level. Like I was saying earlier, I've filmed with the iPhone for so long, and I've learned the ins and outs of it, and I can't learn anything else shooting with the phone. When I've used other cameras, that's where I've like felt pushed and I've actually started to like learn other stuff and get better at filmmaking. But now when I'm using my phone, because I already know it and it's just autopilot when I'm using those things, it's taking away from the learning and honing the craft and getting better. In the beginning, a fancy camera wouldn't do anything other than hurt your bank account. Just saying. It'd be better to buy a course that'll teach you skills, and no, I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I don't have any courses. I'm putting all of my stuff here free on YouTube. It'd be better to buy a course and learn skills with an iPhone, learn the ins and outs of the camera, make the best videos you possibly can. Then after a few years, once you feel like the iPhone's not getting you anywhere and you're going past what you can actually do with it, then it's time to upgrade to something new. And you'll have all of that knowledge from your previous gear that you can just transfer to the new gear and keep learning and up your game. It'll be a much better investment at that point. Another thing about iPhone is that people are always saying it doesn't have depth of field, you can't do cinematic stuff with it. I actually think, I made a whole video about this, but I think it's good to learn how to do filmmaking without shallow depth of field first. And then when you pick up another camera, you won't hesitate to go to higher apertures because you'll know how to make a good image regardless of whether you have depth of field or not. Again, I have a whole video on depth of field on how people are just using that as a crutch to try to get by. So you can check that video out. I'll link it at the end of this video. But when you learn how to do filmmaking without that shallow depth of field, you're actually gonna be a much better cinematographer. And then when you do have a nice lens, you'll be able to make images that are that much better because I mean, you can't deny that when you have the shallow depth of field, it does actually look nicer sometimes, but you won't feel like you have to have that, so you can actually set up your shot without necessarily having the shallow depth of field in mind, make a beautiful image, and then potentially make it more beautiful with depth of field, or make it more beautiful without depth of field. But not many people would think to do that because everyone is so used to using depth of field as a crutch. Okay. back to the previous shot. At the end of the day, I just realized that the phone wasn't gonna get my career where I want it to go. That said, I'm not stopping here on YouTube. Again, I have tons of videos planned. I just gotta find the time to make them. But I'm definitely not stopping here on YouTube. I'm gonna keep going with iPhone Filmmaker. But beyond that, I want this channel to actually become a hub for all creatives, because my passion is for all art, not just film. So feel free to comment any thoughts or ideas you may have below. Subscribe if you're not already. And hold on tight, because we are just getting started. All right, I have a confession. I actually got 2 new cameras. The first one's the R6 Mark II, like I mentioned, but the second is quite possibly the greatest camera ever built. See, I used to be a believer in things like there's no perfect camera and different cameras for different situations, but that was before I found this camera. It's literally the perfect one-stop shop camera for literally everything. I mean, full-scale movie productions, photography, there's nothing this camera cannot do. The camera is this. Like I said, the greatest camera ever built. It's the Lego Q3. Come on, that's hilarious!